What is the prognosis on Aidan Caesar, and when would you expect to have him available?
Yeah, it's ruined the narrative, hasn't it, for you? Aidan Caesar back at Huddersfield. He's had a growing problem for a while now, and he's been really concerned with the fact that in warm-ups, in pre-game sessions, he's been worrying more about his groin than he has done his role. And I understand that as a player myself. It's not worse than going into a game thinking about, am I going to get through the next 10 minutes rather than where you're going to kick ball or what plays you're going to put on where we need to be on field. So I've just said to him, mate, it's really important that when Aidan Caesar plays for Rhinos, is in a great state of mind, is in great physical form, and all he has to worry about is his job. So to answer your question, JD, I reckon might have been another 3 or 4 weeks before we get him there. He's got a bit of inflammation. It's a bit irritated. But I'm talking with physio because you want your best players. You want Aidan Caesar on pitch, bossing team around and giving a bit of direction. But it is what it is. It's rugby league, so we'll have to deal without him for a little while.
David Fussatua, is he progressing as you'd like, and have you got a timescale on his return?
He's had a bad knee. He's had some stomach issues as well. He's got a little bit going on, Fuzzy. I've got to, again, just catch up with doctor. As far as his knee's concerned, I think he might be another 2 or 3 weeks. I don't think he'll be far off. But again, we've got to just manage a few little bits with David. And just get him around the team. But I'd like to hope that he might be able to apply himself in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
So given the players unavailable and given the players back available, how much sort of pondering have you done regarding the combinations and the spine this week?
Yeah, I think for me, we moved ball pretty well against Saints, against a good side in Saints, and just didn't have that finish that we had against the likes of Wakefield. Everybody keeps talking and thinking back to that first half against Wakey. We were pretty ruthless there. I think we had some real quality. And look, we've got some lads who are coming through and developing and still growing. And I think in a different context, in a different year, a different time, things might have been a little bit different. We've had, as we spoke about last time, a lot of tries that chalked off early on in games that sort of maybe lacked a little bit of confidence. It's a bit like when you're fishing a match. I don't know if you've ever done this, James, but when you see other people catching fish around you and you don't quite bag the first couple, they start to panic and forcing things and playing with a lack of patience. But we've got some real quality and strike within the squad. I think the value that Richie Miley brings when he's playing full-back, Harry Newman, mate, just world class. But these boys, whilst they're still in and around squads, contributing from what's between their ears, we're missing them on field and on training field. But if we can get through the next few weeks with some positive performances and keep building them building blocks, we'll get them back when sun starts shining, and we'll be a good team for it.
How big a game does it make Thursday, and what do you expect from Huddersfield?
For me, it's massive. It's like every game's like a grand final, JD, and I don't mind saying, I'm honest. I for all reasons I've talked about before, being a Leeds lad and what that means, it has been meant for 35 years, 32 years. It's like playing in a grand final. I'm desperate everything that I do, and on a Monday morning when I get up, I'm desperate to make the right decisions. I'm desperate to make the right phone calls. I'm desperate to put in the right training schedule, and every piece of application that comes out of my mind and my heart is a desperate one, because I want us to be as good as we can be going into this game, because it's a huge game. We need to turn things around. We need to play well. We need to stick together, and again, prime directive number one, do it together. Again, for all the right reasons. I just believe, in my experience of life, when we do things because we're doing it for somebody else, we tend to do a better job of it. We've got more accountability, and we apply ourselves better. So, bringing this group together and solidifying. And I've got a smile on my face, because I've just had a last run, and me and Longy are joking all the time that last runs, you can never look at them like you can a crystal ball and say, well, that was a great last run, so that means we're going to play well. Sometimes we go horrendously and you play well, and vice versa. But I'm just listening to the noise out there, the application and execution, and it's as good as it's been for a while. So I'm pretty excited, and I'm happy with where the boys are at.
What's your gauge on Huddersfield then at the moment?
I think they're outstanding. When I look at them, I do so with a great deal of respect and reverence. Do you know what? I think of all the teams in Super League, there's been a lot of talk about certain clubs and what they're going to do. I think they're the ones that have been most misrepresented and underrepresented for the rugby that they've played. Ian Watson, what he's brought in, and when you think about the players as well, there's a bit of a mishmash. You know, they look very cherry-picked. Lola here and Salford and Chris Hill and Warrington and Theo Fard from St Helens, and you add Levi into that and McQueen, and there's all these guys that are playing very well together in such a short space of time, which is testament to coaching and environment they've got there at Huddersfield. They're scoring a lot of tries from kicks, and that sometimes can look lucky, but I'm a big believer that you make your own luck, and luck comes through confidence and great execution and synchronicity. They've got that all over the place, which makes them extremely dangerous for us, and it means that we've got to move quick. We can't stop running. We've got to apply some energy tomorrow, some of which you can't legislate for either. You know, when Tui feels like a kick's on and it's instinctive and intuitive, then he'll put it on, and it might not look anything like he's done before. So we've just got to keep moving and defend for each other.
Just lastly for me, Jonesy, 3 games in 9 days. Do you expect to be in charge for all 3? Have you been told at all?
I've been told. I've no idea. I'll take one game at a time with a great deal of desperation, as I said. And regardless of where that ends up, again, my aim is to bring boys together and to start trying to make little incremental gains as far as our togetherness, our culture, and all those other bits we've talked too much about in recent weeks. That's ultimately up to hierarchy and Gary. But listen, I'll be here to serve the club as I'd like to think I have been for the last 25 years in whatever capacity I can. And whether that's short or long, I don't know. I'll just take one game at a time.
Just a quick one, Jonesy, from me. Obviously, you play with Tui at Leeds. It didn't go great for him at Rhinos, but are you pleased to see that he's doing what he is now for Huddersfield? And not necessarily this week, but he's obviously got back to his best. Yeah,
it looks good, and they value him as well. We were up at Challenge Cup game when they played Barrow a couple of weeks ago, and he had about a 40-minute fitness test out on field, and I don't know what the point of it was. I don't know whether they were trying to get him on field or it was a bit of rehab, but it just shone how important he is to that group, to that club, and how influential he is. And listening to what Ian Watson said about him in the press over years has really stood out in how much he rates him as a player. He's very unpredictable. He plays instinctively. He's got that tongue and flair about him. Extremely strong, and he's got an amazing set of feet. For a big man. He's an halfback, but he's a big, strong lad. So he's been really threatening. And I used to sit next to him in changing rooms, and it's always a shame when people leave Rhinos, but he's moved on and he's made a real success in this next chapter of his career. And of course, I hope he doesn't cause us too much damage tomorrow, but I do wish him all the very best for his future.
Hi, Jonesy. Jonesy, just a quick one for me, I suppose. The injury crisis, obviously, at the moment, it opens up opportunities for youngsters within the squad to develop and sort of mature. Are you happy with the development of the younger members of your squad during your time in charge?
Yeah, I've always been a big advocate, and my role the last couple of years is to help that development with some young blokes. I'm a big fan of Jared O'Connor. I've mentioned that before. I think when you look at his numbers that he puts out during training, he's just a workhorse. Is effort upon effort, and I think any good performance in rugby league always comes from effort areas. That's the fundamental foundations, and he's always willing to do that. The little things that make a big difference. I'm a huge fan of Max Simpson as well. I can't wait to give him that opportunity. I think he's been amazing. I mentioned it before, in his aptitude for learning. Sometimes, or most of the time, you have to go through a process with young people to develop them mentally and physically, and in terms of making decisions. But he just gets it on week one. You tell him what to do and what it looks like, he can mirror it. And physically, he's a great specimen. In the image of Morgan Gannon, players like that, sometimes I think Morgan Gannon can be a victim of their own success in that they come through too quick and you forget how young they are. But he's been exceptional for us to the point where he sort of almost won at first on team sheet. He's brilliant because he's going to trademark really high. And that's what Leeds Rhinos has been about in the past when we've been successful. That's what good clubs like St Helens do, and Wigan, they keep bringing in the youth. It's a big part of succession. And there's a few good lads ready to come through, which we're really excited about.
And finally, Jonesy, for me, there seems to be great excitement and enthusiasm in your words, looking forward to the Huddersfield clash. It almost feels like you like to be out there playing yourself.
Mate, I'm representing Leeds. I'm wearing the badge that I grew up supporting all my life, mate. All Leeds that way. And listen, we go through thick and thin. We have summers, we have winters. And I've said before, whether I'm watching Leeds nights down at Ice Hockey Stadium, jumping around at stadium for Josh Wharton or representing my hometown club, Leeds Rhinos, I've always got a smile on my face. It doesn't matter how light or dark it gets, I'll be representing my colours and my banner. So, yeah, I'm always excited. And as I said, the boys have just trained really well. And I think you can probably see the image of how impressed I am of the way that they've applied themselves since the Saints game in training and the way they made some noise out on training field. And I'm looking to see how that manifests tomorrow night against a really tough Huddersfield team.
Yeah, what's been your message to players heading into this busy period? Is it a challenge they should relish?
Yeah, I think you look at the period as well. I think what's really stood out in Rugby League, and it's credit to media actually, you guys, is some of the build-up with some of the games that's on, local derbies, Wigan Saints and all KRs, and every game should have that passion. I think this week it's been quite contagious. There's a couple of really important milestones as well. Tommy Briscoe, 200 games, I think 300 career games. Blake Austin, 200 games. And whenever you talk about the why do we play Rugby League? Why do we play a game where we're going to get our faces smashed in and then get up and play ball and do it again for 80 minutes? Well, we do it for our mates. And I talked about motivation before. When we do things for other people, we tend to do a better job of it. And our why this week is to keep cohesive, to stick together, and to recognise some of the contributions that those two players in particular have made over the course of their career. And the best way to celebrate it is by turning up for each other on a match day. So we're incredibly motivated in that sense, and we want to follow the trend of some of the passion that's going to go into some other games this weekend.
And as a player, did you pride yourself on how you handled these challenging moments and periods?
Yeah, I used to joke a lot about this as a player, that I was always desperate. I've used that word quite a lot, and that's because when I was 4 years old, and my earliest memories of playing sport, it was part of my identity, and losing was unacceptable to me because it was a loss of my identity if I lost. And I'd do anything I needed to do, kick, fight and bite, sometimes not always right things, I would mind admitting, but I was young and naive. And as I became a professional, I understood what the right things to do were. So I'd go out and do them. And but the desperation and the hunger never left me. And I think a big part of that as well is because I was never the best player, I'm a more skillful player, just industrious and hardworking. And I think that always underpins any success in life, whether it be sport, education, business. So that's part of my ethos, and it's part of my character identity, and God willing, it always will be.
And because the fixtures come in such quick succession, are you viewing this period as a chance to go bang, bang, bang and get moving up that table? Yeah,
it's a time to rely on intuition, on instinct, reviewing games, previewing games, having a little bit of trust. And I've been sort of challenging the players as well to have a look at games and bring that collective IQ, bring some feedback to the group. Some of them are really well experienced professional players and have got a lot to add. And so Longy and Rich Unnix and James Bledsoe have been outstanding as staff. So in this short period, we've got to roll our sleeves up, but we're in the middle of a war. We're in the middle of a war, and this is another battle. But 3 or 4 battles to fight in quick succession. And it's the same for every club, so that'll bring about its challenges, but we're up for the fight.